Hello and welcome to this lesson on bearing and distances. In today's lesson, we are going to be looking at this particular question. One of the things that you need to be able to flow with dealing with questions on bearing and distances is for you to have prerequisite knowledge on the idea of sine and cosine rule, which is going to be very handy anytime we're dealing with questions involving bearing and distances. Okay, so let us look at this question. So we have a question given to us here. Ship A is 50 kilometers from X on a bearing of 258 degrees. Now, it's very important for us to know that anytime we're looking at bearing and distances, we have the north, we have the south, we have the west, and we have the east direction. So anytime we are beginning a bearing, we always begin it from the north pole through to east, south, and west, respectively. And it's also very important for us to know that we have two types of bearing, a three-figure bearing and also a compass bearing. A three-figure bearing has a bearing in this particular form here. So you can have your three-figure bearing like this. So this bearing of 258 degrees, and we have a bearing of 38 degrees. For a compass bearing, it happens like this. When we see 30 degrees in the north-east direction, or we see 92 degrees in the southeast direction. So these are examples of compass bearing. So we could see any, depending on the kind of questions that we have been given to attempt. So let's quickly attempt this question here. Now let us begin. Ship A is 50 kilometers on X. Now this is X. From X, note that from X is coming from X, right? So our bearing begins from the north pole, right? So 258 degrees. So note that this is the first quadrant, 90 degrees, second 180 degrees through 270 degrees, and between 270 and 360 degrees is in the fourth quadrant. So if we begin from the North Pole, as we have said earlier, um, this is 180. Now, between 180 and 270 lies 258. And we see that part of the diagram is already what's illustrated for us to see there. So that means in this direction, we have 258 degrees, right? And that gives us the direction. We have been given and told that it is 50 kilometers away, right? Okay. So for clarity to help us with our diagram, let us bring in our line of illustration here. So this will aid us in actually getting clarity with our diagram. Let us also have something like that here. So this will be of tremendous help to us while looking at our bearing. Okay, so we have this 258 degrees. Now, let us look at the second sentence. In the second sentence, it says that ship B is 44 kilometers from X on a bearing of 312 degrees. Now, if you look carefully, 312 degrees is between 270 and 360. That is in the last quadrant, right? So if we come in that direction, if we come in that direction, let's take it this way. So let me use a different marker to show that illustration. So from now, should be 44 kilometers from X, right? So from the same point. So if we go in that direction, 312 is in 312 is here, right? So this is 312 degrees. So that means from here to here is 312 degrees. Now we need to do some computations here. Now, if you look at the first ship A bearing, now from here to here is 258, right? And if you look at this line that I introduced to us as a marker, right, it is showing us where the third bearing where it actually what ends, right? So from here, from the beginning of this point to this point is 270. Now we need this angle here. We need the angle here, right? So that bearing is going to be the difference between 270 and 258, right? And if we take that difference, that is going to give us 12. So that means in this place, we have 12 degrees, right? We have 12 degrees. Now, if you look at the second bearing from B, should be from X. Now, we note that from the beginning to this point is already stated to be what 312 degrees. So now that gives us some ease. We can actually be able to figure out this particular what angle here, right? By subtracting 360 from 312, right? So if we subtract 312 from 60, I think that leaves us with 48 degrees. So that means the angle here is going to be what? 48 degrees. Now, since that angle is 48 degrees, we can actually use that idea or knowledge to find this angle here. Because if you look at it very carefully, this is north, and this one is this one here, this line here is actually due west. So the line that you see here is due west. So that means we're already having an angle 90 from this point down to this point. So we can subtract 90 from 48. And if we subtract 90 from 48, it means the angle from here to this place will be 42 degrees. So can you see how we are mapping out the diagram bit by bit? So that will now give us the value of the angle from this point down to this point. So the sum of 42 and 12 is going to give us 54 degrees. So that means we have 54 degrees is. Remember that she is 44 kilometers away from X. So here is going to be 44 kilometer, right? So we have what we need in here, right? Later on, we are going to be needing some help also. But if we let's just quickly look at this. Now, one of the things that we also need to have prerequisite knowledge about is the knowledge of angles. Anytime you are dealing with or looking at angle properties, you need to have good understanding of angle properties because it's going to be helping you when also looking at bearing and distances. Now, there's an angle property that says that alternate angles in alternate segments are equal. Now, if you look at this angle, if you have rich knowledge about angle properties, you will know that this angle here and the angle that is here, they are in alternate segments. They are in alternate segments. So what does that mean? That tells us that this angle here is 42 degrees. 42 degrees is in alternate segment to this one. We'll be needing that later on, but let's focus on the question at hand. Calculate the distance between A and B. Now, distance between A and B is the distance that we have here. Now, look at this very carefully. This is the distance A and B that we are actually asked to find. Now, very quickly, for us to find distance AB, now we have two sides here. Two sides are given and we have just one angle, right? Now we have one angle here. It's not going to be so easy for us to be able to know the exact size of the angle that is here or the value of the angle that is here, which means that we cannot use sine rule, right? For us to be able to use sine rule, we need two angles in this case. While for cosine rule to be used, we actually need to just have the value of all three sides or two sides and an included what angle that is opposite the side that we are actually what having in view. So cosine rule is going to be the best bet for us to use in this case. And if you are familiar with cosine rule, like I said, it's a prerequisite knowledge before now. So I'll assume that we have a good knowledge of cosine rule. So for us to calculate the distance AB, now distance AB squared is going to be equal to, now if I I'm using cosine rule. It means that I'm going to be having what? AB squared is going to be equal to 44 squared plus 50 squared minus what? 2 multiplied by 44 multiplied by 50 and multiplied by the cosine of the side that is opposite of the angle that is opposite this side that we are looking for, which is what? 54 degrees. So let us look into that. So this is going to be what? Was 54 degrees. So now this is going to be enough for us to find the value of that particular angle. So let us quickly do the calculations in there. So if we do these calculations, we will actually find out that 44 squared is going to be 1936. Then 50 squared is going to be equal to 2500. Now minus. Now 2 multiplied by 44 multiplied by 50 is going to be equal to 4400. Then we have cos 54 to figure out, right? So the cosine of 54 to 4 decimal places is going to be 0.5877. So we have that figured out, right? So if we calculate through, we are going to find out, and we are going to be arriving at a value of 43 kilometers. So after computation, we should be able to get 43 kilometers. So 43 kilometers will actually be the size of AB. In bearing and distance, it is very important for you to be able to understand your diagram and to be able to map it out effectively, because this is what is going to be helping you when you are trying to map out your bearings. So bringing out the diagram is the first line of importance when you are dealing with questions that it involves. So it's very important for you to understand your diagram. So the value of side AB is equal to 43 kilometers, right? So now we have been able to answer that question for distance AB. So distance AB there is what? 43 kilometers. Now on to the next question that we are asked here. We are asked to calculate the bearing of A from B. Now, note that the point of emphasis here is the from, right? From what? From B. Now, if we go back to this diagram, you said the bearing of A from B. Now, look at A. This is A. From where? From B. Remember that I told you that we always start our bearing from the north pole. So coming here. So this is what? The angle from this point down to the line, right? That goes through towards A. It's going to be our bearing. So which means the angle from this point down to this point is going to be our bearing, right? Now, for us to know this, we actually already have, earlier on, I showed us that this angle here is in alternate segment with this one. So it's going to be helping us during the course of that. Now, if you look at this angle here, from here to here, it's actually clear, right? For us to understand, this is angle 90 degrees. So we have 90 degrees. So what does that tell us? Our bearing is going to be this angle 90 plus angle 42 plus the angle that we have from here to here, which we do not know. So it means that we actually we are going to be needing to find the value of this angle to help us answer that question B. So in answering that question B, now, looking at that question B, we already have we already have which side now? This side is 43, right? This side is 43 kilometer, right? So we have 43 kilometer and the angle that is opposite it is also known. So we only need to find this angle here. The side that is facing it is also what? No. So it means that we can basically opt for the sine rule now to enable us find that particular angle. Now, if you go up and look at that diagram, we have 50 there, right? So we have 50. So if we divide that by, let's go up and carefully look at that diagram again. So look at B, right? So 50 over sine theta, I labeled that theta, right? So if we said 50 over sine theta is equal to, now the side that we just found to be AB is 43, right? And the angle facing it is what? 54. So 50 over sine 54. So we can now say the value of sine theta is equal to 50 multiplied by sine 54 divided by what? 43. Okay, so let us check the calculations for that particular one. Now, the value of sine 54 here is equal to 0.8090. So we are dividing that by 43. So if we said 50 multiplied by 0.8090, then dividing the results by 43, right? So that is going to be giving us 0.9407. Now remember that that is the value for sine theta, right? So now for us to get the value of theta, we need to know the sine inverse, right? So the sine inverse of 0.9407 is what we are interested in, right? So that means theta is going to be equal to the sine inverse of 0.9407. So this is going to be equivalent to 70.2 degrees, right? Approximately. Now, if we go back to the diagram up, so it means that the value of angle theta there is eventually going to be what? 70.2 degrees. So we have here to be 70.2 degrees. Now, if you look at our bearing, we have 90 plus 42 plus 70.2, right? So that's going to be the result of the bearing of A from B. So here we have bearing of A from B. So that's going to be equivalent to 90 plus 42 plus what? 70.2. So this is equal to 202.2 degrees. So this is actually the result of what we have been able to get. So in summary, for you to better understand bearing and distances, you need to understand sine and cosine rule perfectly. You need to know when to use them and when not. You also need to have a good knowledge of angle properties. That will also help you in attending to problems that has to do with bearing and distances. So this is where I'll be stopping for now. We'll see you some other time. So if you want more videos like this, you can comment, like, and share. And if there's any problem that you would like me to attend to in the future, you can put it in the comment section. See you some other time.